Well, it's our official Friday, and so kind of like a couple weeks ago where we had a shortened lesson on that Friday, we're going to do that same kind of thing today. Because if we were in the regular classroom, our Friday would be a little bit shorter than our other days. And so kind of want to keeping with that lesson plan in mind as we're going through just for my sanity, so that we're always testing on a Friday. Kind of need to slow it down a little bit to make sure that we are there. So we want to go ahead and just mention, mention our end in mind kind of quickly, and then we're going to go into checking our questions for today. So all week you have been asked to identify which descriptive words and phrases the author provides to create the mood of hopelessness and desperation in our story. And we've talked about quite a few examples of this as we've gone through the reading. We've had some Teen Talk questions that kind of came back around to that, and other pieces just in the daily reading that support that hopelessness and desperation. So hopefully most of you all did your questions 1 and 2 yesterday, and I've been able to give you some feedback on those that would solidify that yes, you're kind of getting that skill, and or no, you're still kind of struggling with it. So hopefully at this point, with me helping isolate some of those pages, that you're able to pick out those pieces for us. All right, so we want to look at questions 3 and 4 from day 2. It says, number 3, why do you think Stanley lies to his parents in his letters? And then support your answers. Okay, so if we go to page 81, and so I could say, I think that Stanley lies to his parents in his letters because he doesn't want them to worry about him. And the evidence of lies would be on page 81, where it says, camp is hard but challenging. We've been running obstacle courses and have to swim long distances on the lake. Most of this is a lie. Now, but there is one part there that's the truth. Camp is hard but challenging. Now, if he had said camp is hard but challenging, we've been digging 5-foot by 5-foot holes every day since I've been here. We get a 3-minute shower. The food is horrible. There is no lake. We just get a limited amount of water. What would his mom and dad been like? They would have been beside themselves with worry. How am I going to get my Stanley out of there? Oh my Lord, where have we sent him to? Where did we encourage him to go? So he lies so that they won't worry about him. Okay? Now, the next one is a summarize. Even though I'm going to send us to some pages, we're going to look at page 84 and 85. And I'm flipping there too. On 84 and 85 is where the reading begins, where the sunflower seeds are taken. And so the question says, summarize how Stanley gets in trouble over the sunflower seeds. Now, you don't have to put page numbers where it says to summarize, and because they don't want you to put that textual evidence in there. They just want you to kind of, in your own words, explain what happened, okay? So I would say, the way I would summarize how Stanley gets in trouble about the sunflower seeds is that Magnet steals the sunflower seeds out of Mr. Sir's truck. And when Mr. Sir drives off, he's passing the bag around for everybody to have some. And when he throws the bag to Stanley, it opens and spills out. About that time, Mr. Sir realizes that his bag is missing, and he makes a U-turn and comes back, and he finds the bag in Stanley's hole. That's how he gets in trouble. You're not going back and saying, on page 84 and 85, and you're not just giving me big quotes from those pages. You're just telling me what happened in your own words. That's what we're looking for. Now, let's open our book to page 88. Chapter 20. I feel like my face is like way too big here. I need a drink. And I need a seat. All right. Remember, this is a shortened lesson today. So, 88. It felt good to walk in the shade of the 2 oak trees. Stanley wondered if this was how a condemned man felt on his way to the electric chair, appreciating all of the good things in life for the last time. They had to step around holes to get to the cabin door, and Stanley was surprised to see so many around the cabin. He would have expected the warden to not want the campers digging so close to her home. But several holes were right up against the cabin wall. The holes were closer together here as well and were of different shapes and sizes. Mr. Sir knocked on the door, and Stanley still held the empty sack. Yes, the warden said, opening the door. There's been a little trouble out on the lake, Mr. Sir said. Caveman will tell you all about it. The warden stared at Mr. Sir a moment, and then her gaze turned toward Stanley. He felt nothing but dread now. Come in, I suppose, said the warden. You're letting the cold out. It was air-conditioned inside her cabin. The television was going, and she picked up the remote and turned it off. She sat down on a canvas chair, and she was barefoot and wearing shorts. Her legs were as freckled as her face and arms. So, what is it you have to tell me? Stanley took a big breath to steady himself. While Mr. Sir was filling the canteens, I snuck into the truck and I stole his sack of sunflower seeds. I see. She turned to Mr. Sir. That's why you brought him here? Yes, but I think he's lying. I think someone else stole the sack and Caveman's covering up for X-ray or somebody. It was a 20-pound sack, and he claims to have eaten them all by himself. He took the sack from Stanley and handed it to the warden. I see, the warden said again. The sack wasn't full, said Stanley, and I spilled a lot. You can check my hole. In that room, Caveman, there's a small flowered case. Will you get it for me, please? She pointed to a door. Well, Stanley looked at the door, then at the warden, then back at the door. And he slowly walked toward it. It was kind of a dressing room with a sink and a mirror. Next to the sink, he saw the case, white with pink roses. Well, he brought it back out to the warden, and she set it on the glass coffee table in front of her. She unclasped the latch and opened the case. It was a makeup case. Stanley's mother had one similar to it. He saw several bottles of nail polish, polish remover, a couple of lipstick tubes, and other jars and powders. And the warden held up a small jar of dark red nail polish. You see this, Caveman? He nodded. This is my special nail polish. Do you see the dark, rich color? You can't buy that in a store. I have to make it myself. Well, Stanley had no idea why she was showing it to him. He wondered why the warden would ever have the need to wear nail polish or makeup. You want to know my secret ingredient? He raised and lowered one shoulder. The warden opened the bottle. Rattlesnake venom. With a small paintbrush, she began applying it to the nails on her left hand. It's perfectly harmless when it's dry. She finished her left hand. She waved it in the air for a few seconds and then began painting the nail on her right hand. It's only toxic while it's wet. She finished painting her nails and then stood up. She reached over and touched Stanley's face with her fingers. She ran her sharp, wet nails very gently down his cheek, and he felt his skin tingle. Well, the nail on her pinky just barely touched the wound behind his ear, and a sharp sting of pain caused him to jump back. The warden turned to face Mr. Sir, who was sitting on the fireplace hearth. So you think he stole your sunflower seeds? No, he says he stole them, but I think it was. And she stepped forward and struck him across the face. While Mr. Sir stared at her, well, he had 3 long red marks slanting across the left side of his face. Stanley didn't know if the redness was caused by her nail polish or his blood. It took a moment for the venom to sink in, and suddenly Mr. Sir screamed and clutched his face with both hands, and he let himself fall over, rolling off the hearth and into the rug. And the warden spoke softly. I don't especially care about your sunflower seeds. And Mr. Sir moaned. If you must know, said the warden, I liked it better when you smoked. And for a second, Mr. Sir's pain seemed to recede. He took several long, deep breaths. Then his head jerked violently, and he let out a shrill scream, worse than the one before. And the warden turned to Stanley. I suggest you go back to your hole now. Stanley started to go, but Mr. Sir lay in the way, and Stanley could see the muscles on his face jump and twitch. His body writhed in agony. And Stanley stepped carefully over him. Is he... Excuse me, said the warden. Stanley was too frightened to speak. He's not going to die, the warden said. Unfortunately for you. Now, this is where we're going to stop reading today. So I'm going to say 91. That's where we stopped. Okay, now, that doesn't mean that you don't have an assignment for today. I'm going to want you to upload this answer for me. Now, Miss Larissa, her name went out of my head, had sent me a question that she would like you all to write an answer for her. And you'll turn it into me on Google Classroom, and then I will print it off and give it to her. She would like you to explain to her how your life has changed due to COVID-19. So write it down. How has your life changed since COVID-19 has been introduced to the United States. She sent me the question, and I'll be honest, this is the kind of what the question is. I forgot to write the actual question down, and I'll have to tell her that. I'll accept ownership of that. So you're writing about this. How has your life changed since COVID-19 has been introduced to the United States? She wants a kid's view, okay? And I want you to make sure that at the end that you print your name on it, because once I print them out, I may lose whose is what. So at the end of your paragraphs or papers, I would like you to write your name on them, okay? So that's your assignment. So you're going to upload to Google Classroom. And that's another reason that our reading itself is a little less today, because this should take you a little bit. I really want you to think about all the ways that your life has been altered or changed since this has kind of come into the forefront for us. So that's your assignment, and I see you back here on Monday, guys. Bye.